Well, hello and welcome to the Shallow Proclamation. My name is Paul, and as always, I'm joined by
Thomas, good to
and
see you, man.
and you, yeah, and good to see everyone watching at home. We're currently watching through this season of Doctor Who, the new season. I still get confused now as to what season we're really in. Season 15, is it, of New Who? Yeah, I know because they're calling it season
Yes,
2. It's confusing me.
I think so.
And we're about to dive into. Is this the fifth or the sixth episode? I've already lost track. Must be the sixth episode. No, the sixth episode is this week, isn't it? Because this week is sorry, because we're watching this a few days after.
So this is
It's the
episode
Eurovision,
5.
the Eurovision episode next, isn't it? After this,
Yeah.
because Eurovision for us is 2 days away because we're on the Thursday. Yeah, so we've been watching through this. Looking forward to getting into this. This story is called The Story and the Engine, which doesn't give much away. Makes me think of Thomas, the very useful engine.
The tank engine.
But yeah, I don't think it will be related to that. But who knows? Could be the crossover we didn't know we wanted. Right. Doctor Who
Yeah,
and Thomas the Tank. But I think, is this the one that's? Did we see the trailer last week? It's set in like Lagos or something.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it looks quite interesting.
Yeah.
Paul, a couple of things to mention before we jump in. One is that, sorry if my face looks a bit asymmetrical, because I had a wisdom tooth taken out on this side,
But
so
he
it's
was
a bit
just.
swollen.
I was just saying. I think that's just you were born that way. It's just genetics. It's a lucky dip, isn't it? You know, like it's a lottery. Regeneration.
Regeneration, it's a loss. Yeah, so that's one thing. Also, just to say to you guys, thanks for your comments on the previous video. It generated some interesting discussion. And one thing I just wanted to clarify was I think people got a sense that we were against the Doctor being angry against villains in general and like judging them or kind of, you know, defeating the idea of the Doctor defeating the bad guys, and like obviously we're not against that. I'm absolutely fine with it. Well, I'm glad when the Doctor gets angry about Earth being invaded by Daleks or whatever, and I'm actually okay with the Doctor killing Daleks as well. I think that's completely legitimate in the context. If they're invading Earth, he's defending Earth. It's fair enough. So we weren't. Our issue with the previous episode was not that the Doctor got angry about Conrad's evil. It was the fact that he was a young human being and there was a kind of mean-spiritedness to the way that the Doctor kind of said, you know, I've seen your future and you're just going to decay in this cell unloved. And it just seemed weirdly out of character for the Doctor, for this kind of foolish young man who, you know, the Doctor kind of basically treated him as an irredeemable monster, and he was clearly a stand-in for lots of actual people in our society who get involved in conspiracy theories online and that kind of thing. Would you say that's sort of where we were coming from, Paul?
Yeah, I think so. And you know, I was struck. I watched someone's reaction to Journey's End the other day, and of course, you've got the Doctor sort of even tries to rescue like Davros at the end of that. You know, and after Davros has literally tried to destroy all of reality.
Yeah.
So Davros trying to destroy all of reality, that's okay. Conrad, who, you know, was a bit mean to Ruby and some disinformation, you're like, that's completely wrong. Yeah, so I feel it felt like an awkward fit in that sense for me. Even though, you know, I hope it came across as well. You know, we certainly weren't siding with the Conrads of society. But a few people said as well, it kind of, the episode has some sort of what leaves you with confused ideas in some ways, that like, is the message then, don't question authority, just do what the establishment tells you and trust them, and which seems again a slightly bizarre narrative in some ways. So I think, you know, but I thought what was good about it is that obviously it's created some good discussion. I suppose, you know, you just saying about him as a character, it doesn't quite have the the subtleness, or it doesn't deal with it in the tender way like something like Adolescence might deal with a character. Having only in recent history as a sort of nation grappled with that piece of media, which is sort of swept through, looking at a character like, is it Jamie in that?
Yeah,
and you kind of think this felt a bit more like the kind of media that would push people more in that direction rather than try and give any understanding and bringing round. But, understand people have different views on it. And I think the interesting thing with Comrade is that perhaps, so that maybe, again, on first watch, I hadn't necessarily realised, is that the difference is not so much... He's not a character who's been duped, so to speak. That he himself like some people suggest he knows it's real, but is only doing it for his own gain. So he's not like a conspiracy theorist in the sense of like flat earthers or something. They're gonna come for us, Thomas. But he's not someone who's just believed something that we might think is a bit silly, who's been taken in by a conspiracy theorist. He's the person pushing the conspiracy theory that he doesn't even believe, but for his own gain. So I thought, okay, that's interesting, and maybe that does put a different spin on it.
That is a good point, because when he sees the monster for real, he is genuinely terrified, but then he gets up and goes, well, your special effects have got better.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
But then, so I think even within that, there's, still the question of, I still feel that the Doctor's reaction is a little bit out of proportion, not necessarily out of character to be angered by that, rightly so. But like I say, when you compare that to someone like Davros, you kind of go,
it's like, kind of hate the sin, love the sinner, isn't it? And,
well, particularly because it's so obviously supposed to be someone that you could identify in society today. So I think that's probably my bigger issue with it, because it's quite a big thing to be like, this is someone in our society, and they are these kind of people who walk among us, who might be your next door neighbour, is the irredeemable type of person. That's quite divisive.
Choking our bandwidth.
And yeah, exactly. So, but good that it has provided a bit of conversation. Although, as I mentioned to you before we came on here, we were just saying we feel we get far less comments on these stories than we do on the classic era, and it makes me feel like, is anyone still watching this show? For all the Disney money that's been thrown at it and the return of Russell T Davies, has the show sort of dwindled to such an extent that no one really cares anyway?
And I do kind of feel bad for that about them, because it may be partly because people really aren't liking the direction it's taken. It may be that Doctor Who just isn't really in the public consciousness, the new generation, as much now. But yeah, it's a shame that it feels like, because there have been a couple of episodes in this season. Well, this season overall has been reasonably strong, I'd say, but it just it does feel like it's fizzling, and it hasn't really built momentum, and there isn't a buzz around each episode coming out. It's a shame.
There's a lot of rumours, isn't there, about people saying like, season 3 hasn't been commissioned. Russell T Davies, they're already looking for his replacement, but no one really seems to want it. Ncuti Gatwa, is he leaving? Is he regenerating? All this kind of stuff, and to me, it does feel a bit like.
Everything all right?
Oh, are we still there? Sorry, you froze up.
Oh yeah, can you see me?
Yeah, sorry. I said, to me, it does feel a bit like the end of the Sylvester McCoy era, when the show was actually finally cancelled, where there was, Sylvester McCoy's first season, for me, is one of the worst seasons of Doctor Who ever. And then you get 2 seasons after that, which are actually getting progressively stronger and stronger. And the show is doing some really interesting things with the character and some nice things it's weaving through. But I don't think anyone was watching anymore. And then the show got cancelled. So, and I wonder whether it's a bit like that now, that, I felt like last season and maybe Whittaker's stuff was very poor. And then maybe this is a step in the right direction, but if it might keep going in the right direction, but will it be too late?
Right. Yes. Have people sort of given up hope?
Yeah, and I mean the first era of Doctor Who ran for 26 years, from 63 to 89, and now we are sort of 20 years into the modern era.
That's
so
what I thought, isn't it? Yeah.
It's in my head. I still think of Doctor Who being new back on the telly. Sort of it's returned, and but actually 20 years is it's more than the lifetime of a lot of the demographic that the show would be aiming at.
Yeah.
So, maybe it will come to an end and be rested or put on hiatus. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
What a happy thought.
What a happy thought. And then there might be new Who after another wilderness era. It'll be absolutely great. Hopefully. Well, so this is the story in the engine. Shall we dive into it?
Absolutely. Let's just dive in. I'm quite looking forward to it.
Well, yeah, we're always hoping for it to be good, aren't we? So for anyone watching with our full commentary track, we will begin the episode in 3, 2, 1, go.
A long time ago, back in the village when I was a small boy.
Fourth wall breaking.
The fire.
Still a good TARDIS, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I don't feel we've actually seen huge amounts of it, though. Given the vastness of the set, hasn't been used loads and loads.
Yeah, there's not actually that much that's been set in the TARDIS, is there? Just they don't go back to the TARDIS much during the episodes.
No.
Because like in a lot of RTD's first era, the Doctor would be constantly going back to the TARDIS to analyse something or pick up some equipment or, yeah.
I have wondered a few times, like it feels like a massive part of your budget spent on something that you maybe aren't using that much, but I don't know.
Like I'd love another episode that's set entirely in the TARDIS, because they're often great episodes.
Yeah, Edge of Destruction, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS.
Yes. What's the one where Amy and Rory are walking around it and like Rory ages and becomes a skeleton? That was terrifying.
The Doctor's Wife.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that one really rattled me. I've just had a thought, Paul.
Have you?
Is this going to be a companionless episode?
Maybe so. But then, I suppose in the last episode, Belinda wasn't there either, so wouldn't be very good if she wasn't in this. Not doing her any favours, if so.
Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't feel like we've seen a huge amount of her in this season so far.
Seasons are too short, aren't they, for
to
establish much, particularly when you have episodes
crumbs.
like the last one. I could be doing that, to be honest, mate. Getting a bit thin up here.
It was kind of cool in a weird sort of quirky way, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Stuff on the back of a spider.
Yeah, very sort of surreal.
I go by many names. Anansi.
Anansi, I was going to say, is it Anansi?
I was a fugitive back then, and Nancy was wrong to offer that bet. And frankly, darling, I was busy in a different story that might be finished one day.
Okay.
Will it be finished one day?
Where are we going?
That sums up the Chibnall era entirely, doesn't it? I'm going to drop this watch into the TARDIS, and I might finish this story one day.
This is a neat kind of shot, isn't it? It's a bit like a old school sort of video game.
That is pretty cool, actually, isn't it?
Beating heart inside a brain.
Brilliant. What else is a story?
Do what we're doing.
Just this once.
I'm a doctor. I'm a time
When you
lord.
fire that first shot, no matter how right you feel, you have no idea who's going to die.
When people need help, I never refuse.
Definitely not the man I was.
My body is like a barbershop. All of them inside, telling their stories, bickering. Mama. It's a long story, but once upon a time.
Welcome to the 803rd Interstellar Song Contest!
I will survive, and I will find you.
You can still help those people.
Bob.
Can't we call for rescue?
Well, there we go.
There we go. Okay, interesting. I think I'm still trying to wrap my head around the metaphysics.
Right. Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that engine that like kind of sustains stories, but it also depends on stories for power or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there, wasn't there?
Yeah. I mean, I think I quite enjoyed it. You know, the concepts. I think there's a lot of really, you know, the concepts in there felt pretty good. It felt pretty fresh as well. I mean, I'm sure someone's going to turn around and say, "Oh, it's just a reworking of this story," but it felt pretty fresh to me. I think, you know, obviously I said just as a setting, sort of where the Doctor was itself is pretty cool. But the idea of the sort of barbershop and the stories feeding the power, that's I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the design of the spider thing, the spider sort of engine, that the whole thing was part of the engine, right? Is the engine just a bit at the centre?
That's a good question. I took that the engine was the bit at the centre, but
Right, yeah.
might be wrong about that.
Well, either way, you know, the design looks pretty cool. I'm trying to think what it reminded me of. It was I think, the way it moved, I'm sure it was all CGI, but it had a sort of feeling of like the way that the spider thing moved reminded me a little bit of the kind of animation you got in things like A Nightmare Before Christmas, that kind of stop motion kind of thing. You know, it was a little bit like that, where it felt like there was a real thing there that was, you know, or James and the Giant Peach, that kind of strange animation that we don't tend to see much anymore. It didn't feel completely CGI to me, but I'm sure it probably was.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, I think I see where you're coming from there. And it kind of had this hollow mask, which was quite cool. So you could see through the eye sockets, and there didn't appear to be a head in there or anything.
And it was the same mask that was on the Clippers, yeah?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And that was a really neat design there.
Yeah, and I always get chills when there's like a compilation of doctors talking. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's always
It's
nice,
like an
isn't
easy
it?
win with the fans, isn't it? But
Absolutely, yeah.
nice to see like Capaldi and Smith in there as well, because I feel like their eras haven't really been referenced much at all. There's been a lot of reference to the first RTD era in these two seasons. But yeah, good to see some Capaldi and Smith. And I wasn't expecting to see the Roof Doctor. That was kind of unexpected, wasn't it?
No, a sort of fugitive Doctor. Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder whether that is going to play into anything else. You know, are we going to go more into the that story? Like you say, obviously Whittaker, we had that Doctor, her Doctor, drop the fob watch into the centre of the TARDIS, and that was kind of left. And, you know, that was a kind of criticism of the Chibnall era, that it sets up things that never does anything with them. I mean, and it's tricky though, isn't it? Because when you set up something like that, I mean, what do you want? I mean, because if the Doctor gets the fob watch back and then gets all those memories, I mean, as a viewer, do you want to know all that information?
Or is it good?
You can't. You have them, yeah. I mean, you kind of want to tease things, don't you? I mean, like I said, when the whole timeless child thing. I mean, I've never had an issue with the idea really of there being incarnations before Hartnell. That sort of idea of that kind of thing going on. But it was more the stuff I didn't like was the Doctor not being from Gallifrey anymore and all this kind of stuff and all that jazz. I haven't got any time for that, quite frankly. But the Ruth thing is interesting, and I wonder whether it will come back up in whether they're moving towards something in the end of the season with that. It would seem strange to get her in for literally 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds of material, and then do nothing with it, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
so was the implication that when Abby had previously met the Doctor, it had been as Ruth?
Yeah. So definitely right prior to all of that, which is interesting though, because because the Doctor clearly remembered his meeting with her. How much of his time as Ruth does he remember already? Yeah,
because it's kind of hazy, isn't it? It kind of comes back. So maybe he kind of gets deja vu or something about it.
But I said deja vu. I said before, it feels there's an element of which the seasons have felt a little bit like the end of the 80s, like where it was there was some pretty poor stuff, and then the next two seasons picked up a bit. One of the things that you get in the sort of McCoy, the final two seasons of McCoy, and I mean, that's not really a spoiler because I'm not giving anything away, but is they try and recreate, or they try and reassert some more of the mystery around the Doctor, like of who he is and where he's come from. And I mean, you get, bringing the Ruth Doctor in, this is that kind of, there is an element of that there, isn't there? Of this is prior to anything we've seen, this hazy era in the Doctor's existence that we don't really know anything about. Some similarities there of, trying to do that again. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of compelling. And actually, she was one of the better aspects of the Chibnall era. she was a better Doctor than Jodie Whittaker.
You've just said exactly what I was going to say. That in the brief amount of time she has on screen, she absolutely nails it in comparison to Whittaker, who I never felt really did it.
I think the problem is, like making a reference back to the Whittaker era in this season is probably not something that I think a lot of people watch and be like, I don't know who that person is, either because they didn't watch the Whittaker era or because it was so long ago and so many gaps between the seasons. And I don't know, it just feels quite funny, doesn't it? It was like we're all meant to know who this person is, but I don't know if the commitment to the show is high enough that people would recognise details like that.
Well, particularly, I think, because this show has marketed itself now as sort of season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And on Disney, it is the only stuff that's on Disney are these 2 seasons, I think. So you don't have anything prior. So it's a bit, it's a bit of an odd thing that the show's kind of...
If the intention is that people can start with Gatwa, it's kind of a bit weird, isn't it?
I mean, I guess, the idea is that there's nothing to stop them going back, but it just feels... I mean, I never really understood the decision to start marketing it as season 1 and 2. I mean, I do understand it from the point of view that it's the Disney thing, it's the American thing. I understand that. But, I just kind of think, well, you've now got 3... you've got 3 season 1s and 3 season 2s. It just seems unnecessarily complicated. Why not just, particularly if you're going to start making references back to the whole classic era, why bother? But it's a small thing, really. But one thing I did, I'm not sure I followed parts of it though, because did the figure, the guy who was the barber for Nancy and all the different names he'd had. I'm not sure we ever got a different, a definitive name for him, did we? Just because he said does many things. Did he just sort of change his mind in the end? Was that what it was, or was there more to it than that?
Yeah, because how does the Doctor convince him he's like, the only way these mortal humans are going to get out is if you let them remember that you were like them once. So he kind of wins him over in the moment, doesn't he? I think if you begin to overthink this episode, I have a feeling quite a few plot holes might begin to
Problems will
open.
emerge.
I mean, it's always the challenge of it's like when you do multiverse stuff and that kind of thing. The moment you're bringing in, I think it's an interesting concept, this pantheon of the gods, and I wonder if they're going to tie it into clearly in the finale with Mrs. Flood and stuff.
Yep.
Are they going to bring up?
from her?
Yeah, the toy maker and Maestro and Lux, this whole pantheon that's kind of connected. But the problem is when you have these beings that are insanely powerful, but you've also got to limit them in some ways, and it's just it can sometimes feel a little bit arbitrary what they have to come up with in order to limit them. So the toy maker one, it kind of makes sense. If he loses at his own game, then he literally kind of gets defeated. He's bound by the laws of his game. That he's quite a self-consistent figure in a way, that makes sense from a story point of view. Maestro, again, it's sort of where Lux got too much light. Okay, fair enough. And then this, I don't know. You just see what I mean? It's just kind of when you're dealing with these godlike figures, it can just sometimes feel like, oh, quick, we've got to come up with some way of containing them.
Yeah,
because otherwise they're just going to completely be able to do literally anything within the story.
Well, I imagine it will all get tied up together because, I mean, it's been a theme that's sort of been running through these first 2 seasons, hasn't it? Of these kind of characters all the way back even to the 60th anniversary specials, I suppose. I think we will see a thing. I mean, yeah, it would be interesting to see where that lands. I mean, we'll know quite soon. There's only 3 more episodes, really, isn't there?
Yeah, that's true.
Next week's episode, the Eurovision one doesn't, or the what's it called? I don't know, Interstellar Song Contest or something. Doesn't, at least at first glance, doesn't look like it's going to be a story that will be dealing with big themes and big ideas. You know, more of a sort of rompy thing. I don't know, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's hiding something. We thought that about things like Fugitive of the Judoon, and then
that's true.
All kinds of things happened. I guess one thing I would say about this story that it struck me, and you sort of mentioned it in passing about, are we going to get a story that doesn't have the companion? Obviously Belinda wasn't it, but I did kind of think to myself, she doesn't really get a lot to do in this story. And for a good chunk of it, she barely has any lines at all, you know, until maybe the last 10 minutes. She has a few more bits of dialogue. There's a few bits where I thought to myself, this feels very exposition-y. You know, suddenly she just seemed to have some ideas of what the Doctor was doing, and she was happy to explain it to the Loki and Nancy character. But
she seems to jump in and just say, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Okay. The confidence is commendable, but it's kind of like you've literally just been landed in this cosmic situation. And you're just sort of going up to these very powerful characters and telling them what to do. Yeah.
So, I mean, I still think I'm enjoying her as a character more than I have Ruby. But she just felt a little bit underused in this to me. And again, maybe it's to do with the fact, because we've said it before, there's only 8 episodes, and that you've got to try and establish a relationship more quickly than they were in sort of previous seasons. So it doesn't feel like it's quite there, or some of it has been earned, but more so than we felt maybe with the Ruby. But I felt a little bit that parts of the story, I did kind of have a moment where I thought, like, this feels like it's trying to deal with some very big ideas, but I wonder whether the build-up isn't there.
Right.
I don't know, but I mean, on the whole, I've still enjoyed it.
I think what I'd say, I mean, I may actually watch it again because I feel like I didn't fully get it, just because I think I might come away from it on second viewing thinking that it didn't all work, but it is definitely a kind of ambitious story, isn't it? And I can kind of commend it for that. Like, I don't think it was playing it safe. I mean, it's a barbershop on the back of a spider, weaving stories together. You know, when they accuse.
I wasn't on my
Doctor
bingo
Who-
list this week. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So I think whatever I come away from it feeling ultimately, I can commend it for doing something a bit different, as you say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like the, you know, obviously you mentioned the Ruth Doctor stuff. I do like the show trying, like the idea of having these characters who are sort of, there's this backstory there that you don't quite know. You know, there's this thing. I do like that, and I always enjoyed that. You know, that's something I really like about the Sylvester McCoy era, is this sort of hinting at something, you know, that is never really shown or revealed, but it's kind of adding a bit of intrigue. You're kind of thinking there's something about the character of the Doctor. There's things gone on before that we don't know about, and we never really get to understand. And I like that. So, you know, that this has a similar, parts of it had similar feel to me on that front. And I appreciate that. You know, I prefer that than a sort of just a throwaway episode. I think, you know, for me, in any season of Doctor Who, you always want the episode. The throwaway episodes are the ones that you kind of feel like sometimes they can be enjoyable, but they don't add anything to the overall scope of where the show is going. You know, the arc or whatever it is of the season. And I like I know some people just are fed up with having arcs. They'd rather just have standalone stories and just having, you know, they would just have enjoyable romps the whole time, more classic era style with no overarching thread. For me, I like the overarching threads, and you know, the teasers about something that we're heading for something bigger that gets wrapped up later at the end of a season or through a season or whatever. For me, that's something I really enjoy about the way modern Who works, and so, you know, I like stuff when it's like that.
Do you mean overarching webs?
Overarching webs, absolutely, yes.
Yes. Yeah. So an interesting one. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. I'm intrigued to see how this one went down, actually. And do join our Discord if you haven't done so already. We've almost got 100 people in our Discord, I think.
Wow,
I think when we
nice.
get to 100, new features are opened up on the
Oh,
Discord.
really?
So
There we go.
So yeah, if you guys, if any of you watching have been thinking about joining, now is a great time, and help us reach the 100. It's a fun community we've got in there. We continue the Doctor Who conversation. We have a Patreon as well, where you can get the full commentary tracks for this episode and many others. So yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks everyone. Take care.